Hey everyone, today's show is broken up into two segments, the first of which is an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at the inaugural event in Asheville named Chow Chow. We speak with Angel Holmes, the event coordinator of the entire event, to hear about what's going to happen September 12th through the 15th, followed by a segment with CEO Jen Collins of Proof Ice Cream. You may have seen some of our posts, and we've talked about it before. Proof Ice Cream is ice cream infused with liquor. That's right. It's booze-filled ice cream, and it's delicious, coming out of Columbia, South Carolina. So stay tuned and let us know what you think. And remember to write us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps others find the show more easily. Thank you very much.
You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. Our featured spirit of the week is Fair Game Beverage from Pittsboro, heart of Chatham County's beverage district. If you're looking for a small batch, handcrafted organic spirit, you're in the right place. Check them out online at fairgamebeverage.com and on social at fairgamebevco. Brought to you by Key City Spirits, brand ambassadors providing North Carolina distilleries with marketing, design, and social media services. KeyCitySpirits.com. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And on this show, you've probably heard us reference the BevCon episodes or BevCon days. You might have even heard yourself and listened to the BevCon episodes. Well, that was made possible by a wonderful lady named Angel, and Angel has got something new brewing and cooking, and she is on the show today to talk to us. So please welcome Angel Holmes from the Chow Chow Festival in Asheville.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going, Angel?
It's great. It's great. Glad to be calling in.
Yeah, so we just found out about this Asheville culinary event called Chow Chow, and we are super excited because we're going to go. We want to be a part of it. But in doing so, we just were like, well, we got to figure out what is going on there. We got to know more about it. Matt and I struggle to get out to Asheville with our kids and our jobs and our lives, and now this is an excellent excuse for us to get to Asheville.
Yeah.
Right off the top, so everybody knows, it's happening September 12th through the 15th, presented by Kimpton Hotels Aras. I think I'm saying that right. But Angel, what's just a very concise way to describe what Chow Chow is all about?
Sure. Well, it's a multi-day, really incredible culinary event that's going to showcase all the wonderful, incredible attributes of Asheville in a really meaningful way. I think, it's such a great destination, and people love coming to the mountains and love doing things like hiking and tubing and biking and whatever they'd like to do. And the food scene has really come to its own, and it's got so many incredible places and people like Katie Button, Joe Rodigan, Marijuana Ronnie, and John Fleer, Peter Pillay. I mean, I could go on. There's so much talent there. And yeah. I think that group just kind of said, hey, we, this is a place, people like to come, obviously, but we really want to showcase it in one really incredible, special weekend. But a lot of the people involved have been to so many events that I think they wanted to make this very special and true to Asheville. So a number of experiences that are very intimate and interactive, and all about the makers who are making things around the table. So the focus is not necessarily on the chefs and the beverage professionals, even though there's a lot of great ones a part of it, but it's also very much about anyone, including carpenters and potters and florists and farmers and all of these incredible people that are doing things collaboratively in Asheville. And so that's going to be something that really stands out and is different about Chow Chow.
That's so cool. Yeah, you're the event director for Chow Chow. And as Matt alluded to with BevCon, it was so well done, BevCon that is, in Charleston. It was just it was one exciting event to the next. It was a great camaraderie of people inside the business and even just avid fans of the beverage industry. So we say that because that was your brainchild, and so we know it's going to be good. We know Chow Chow is going to be set up correctly. Walk us through some of the highlights of some of the events that people would get to experience.
We wanted to really showcase Asheville and all its unique parts and pieces. And we're doing everything from a foraging and feast trip where you're hiking with local and guest chefs like Cassidy Dabney from Blackberry Farm. So it's a really incredible group of people, and you'll go and help forage and go through the mountains and the forest, come back and actually cook and make beverages and meals and learn about blacksmithing and all kinds of cool stuff at Warren Wilson College. We have a clay bake at East Fort Pottery where guests will actually be wrapping their food in clay and then helping cook the clay, doing a tour of East Fork, learning about the process of all of their wonderful, dishware and pottery that they make there.
That's cool.
So there's just a lot of really cool experiences like that. Biltmore is doing what they call Biltmore's Bounty, which are going behind the scenes for an agricultural tour of Biltmore that they do not offer to normal guests. And you'll be able to see their pig farm and their winery and some other other farms that they have on property. Alan Bitten's a part of that experience because they have a partnership with them. So, and then we have a pretty large area in Tax Square, which is the downtown kind of center of the city, where we're taking it over and doing what we're calling Pickled in the Park. We'll have demonstrations going on and tastings and chefs and beverage professionals, not only local, several of which are local, but a lot of guest chefs. Katie Button, for example, is doing Kirite Paella takeover with people, including Jose Andres, which is really exciting. Just a variety. We wanted to create something really for everybody and give people the opportunity to go and explore, the unique places around Asheville.
It sounds awesome. The cool part is it's 4 days, but you can buy individual tickets to specific events.
Yeah, everything's a la carte, so you can pick and choose tickets you want to go to. And we do have a VIP program where if you kind of want to make it easier on yourself and also have access to some special parties and events. And Chow Chow is a 501c3 nonprofit. Our goal is to give back to various charity partners in the Asheville area. Our signature charity this year is the Manna Food Bank because it's National Hunger Awareness Month in September. So we're doing a lot of things for them as well as a lot of different charitable partners that we have. I think there's about 15 to 20 partners that we have on board. So funds that are remaining will go towards those various groups. So we're really excited to be doing things, giving back in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you can not only feel great about going to Chow Chow and spending a couple of days in Asheville, but you can know that your money is going towards something that's helping the community and giving back as well.
Yeah, and we definitely try to make the tickets also a range of prices and affordable, I think. So we have events that are $5 and $10 and $25, and we try to keep everything really where it was more accessible. We have a great locals rate for people in the Asheville area on Sunday if they want to come down to the park.
But this is a massive undertaking, a new food festival. Actually, I'm embarrassed to say this will be my first time in Asheville, but what a way to start.
What?
Yeah.
Yes, you will love it. You will definitely get the full experience then if this is your first time.
For all needs, if you want to go to Chow Chow, go to exploreasheville.com/Chow Chow Culinary Festival, or just Google Chow Chow Asheville.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And we are going to talk about Boozy ice cream today with the CEO of Proof Ice Cream, Ms. Jen Collins. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you, guys. It's an honor to be here today. I'm very excited to discuss Boozy alcohol ice cream with both of you.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of ice cream people on in the past, not a lot, but some, and it's all been about great, delicious flavors. And but this is interesting, and so interesting. We jumped over the state line. We went down to South Carolina. You're in Columbia, is that correct?
We are in Columbia, South Carolina. We have a dedicated manufacturing facility where we actually partner with Midlands Technical College in their business accelerator. and churn out handcrafted pints every single day.
That's pretty amazing. So
this started in university.
Great minds think alike, right? It's actually Midland's Technical College is absolutely phenomenal in the manufacturing space, and they provide companies that have potential, tremendous growth potential, the opportunity to start out within their 5,000 square foot business accelerator, and then grow out your product from there and grow out your footprint on your manufacturing from there as well.
So was this just like downtime in between beer pong that you guys came up with this idea?
I wish you know what, I'm old enough to remember what beer pong is. I don't know if the kids still play that today, the young adults or not, but
it's alive and well. Yeah.
It's alive and well. Yeah, I know, right? I just sent my oldest son off to his freshman year at USC, so I'm sure I'll get some reminders about that as he goes through the 4-year process here. But no, in all seriousness, it's actually this started back in the state of Kentucky. I'm originally from Kentucky. A little bit of background on me. I'm from Kentucky and ended up being introduced to the University of South Carolina many, many years ago as a scholarship athlete. I played basketball at the University of South Carolina.
Yeah.
Went back to Kentucky and, got married, had kids, all those wonderful things, and ran across this opportunity to take a family recipe, a family custard recipe, and try to turn that into a boozy ice cream. Long story short, we've got the science behind it to support, ABV levels that could be anywhere from 2% ABV all the way up to 20% ABV with our intellectual property. Ended up settling at a 7% alcohol by volume, where we felt like that was in the market that tested out on the palate, where the alcohol taste is not too overwhelming on the palate. Ended up relocating the company to South Carolina through some connections and partnerships I had from my old USC days. And we've been up and running pretty hard here for the last year.
Yeah. I think a couple of things. The 7% ABV, as far as our state goes in North Carolina, positions you really well because you can be in a lot of different shops and you don't have to go through the ABC boards and get it approved by the state. And how it came into my realm of knowledge is
our purview.
My purview, exactly. Yeah. In my day job, I am a wine representative for a wine bow, and every place I went, that retail shop or wine bar that started selling that I would go to wine, I'd see sandwich boards for proof ice cream, and I'd be like, this thing is awesome. And people were excited about it, and all of a sudden it seemed to be everywhere.
Even our sponsor of the podcast, Triangle Wine Company, which is a good time to mention Triangle Wine Company, who has 4 locations all around the Triangle. They were carrying, or they do carry, proof ice cream. And we always check out what they're doing online and on social media. And they just posted, they were proudly boasting that they had proof ice cream. And so we were talking with Chris and Glenn over there. And we're like, what's going on, man? What's up with this? He's like, dude, it's really good. And we're moving it pretty fast. So one thing led to another. And that's when we got on a phone call to talk with you. It's an interesting idea, and it makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, everybody loves ice cream, and everybody likes to drink, and I guess even at that, like, I was thinking like how useful it would be. But if you think at the end of a dinner and you want some dessert, and after dinner drinks could be a little clunky, and not everyone knows what they're doing, and also no one just really has a nice bottle of cognac sitting on their back bar most of the time. So this is kind of like right. You get your cake and eat it too. Pardon the pun, I guess. For this is that kind of where that thought process came from?
No, that's exactly where it came from. And it's an opportunity to take really 2 of arguably life's greatest indulgences in ice cream and high-end alcohol, liquor, combine those 2 into one product for the ultimate adult indulgent on the food and beverage side, if you will. And we have found that, folks, it really, particularly for elevating, parties and celebrations, festive occasions. And when we get into O&D, well, October, November, December, Matt, you probably know that from the industry.
True salesperson.
In the past, I was a little bit nervous that we would see a drop off in the colder months, on the sales side. And And quite frankly, we don't see that because we are very conscientious of releasing seasonal flavors that speak to the season. So, for instance, coming up for the current O&D, we'll release an apple pie and a caramel dedicated alcohol ice cream. We'll also come out, for the Christmas season, certainly with some peppermints or peppermint bark, a pistachio rum, things of that nature that will really something, if they want to, pick up a bottle of wine and a pint of ice cream to take for a gathering, for a holiday gathering. This has been really useful, this particular product in that arena as well.
Talk about for a second the type of liquors you're using in your ice cream and how you came to choose those.
Yeah, so for instance, we have our intellectual property. We have the ability to use any alcohol from beer to wine to liquor. What we have found with our proprietary recipe is, gosh, I sound so corporate, I apologize, but what we have found is that the high-end liquors, the high-end bourbons, rums, we also do a tequila, vodka, that they really meld with the ice cream to give you this very creamy, consistent, palate-pleasing texture and taste throughout the entire product. So we know there's some competitors that are in the space that have tried to follow us into the market. And sometimes you'll, take one bite of that product and get a big mouthful of alcohol. Whereas opposed to what we've done throughout our kind of the sophisticated magic of what we do is you get the same consistent flavor profile from the first spoonful to the last spoonful of the unit.
Real quick, Jen, what's the tequila flavor?
The tequila, we went with a vanilla tequila. We were actually talking to, we are not co-branding any of our alcohols at the moment. Yeah. That's a bit down the road, but as I'm sure you guys can think of that from the financial perspective, how we want to grow. But the tequila, we ended up just doing a vanilla tequila. We're also working in-house on a mezcal, which will have a little bit, it reminds me a bit of a smoked ice cream. Does not sound good, but you get that winter profile taste, where you have like a similar to a spiced rum. So our breadth of experience on this is the ability to use any alcohols. Gotcha. But in the South, right? I mean, it's all brown liquor when you're looking at the spirit side. I shouldn't say all brown liquor, but the bourbons are certainly some of the leaders in our flavor portfolio.
Well, and I think also, for a long time, people have made bourbon milkshakes and stuff like that. So that's kind of common to our palate in some respects, or familiar. Yeah. But how you mentioned the opportunities for cross-branding and growth. How does that work right now in terms of the liquor that you're using? I mean, just not that I'm going to go write a letter to the TTB or whatever, but how does that work in terms of you using somebody's liquor or say a name brand and then putting that in your product and making a profit off of that? Do you have to pay off a liquor company, or you just buy it as a business and then you're allowed to use it?
Well, we have strategic partnerships with craft distilleries throughout the United States. Okay. So we have the ability to use, and we have the ability to use a variety of different vendors. But we do have some very strong partnerships with craft distilleries, as well as a couple of the big guys in bourbon country in Kentucky, right? So so we don't we just have strategic partnerships with both sides of the aisle on that, from the craft to the bigger companies that are out there.
But I guess you could, once you just purchase anything and you pay the taxes on it, when it comes to liquor, I mean, in theory, you could use any liquor because it's already been paid for. It's just like you using eggs or milk or anything at that point. Would that be correct?
Yeah, you could do that. Now we are fully permitted through the TTB, so we have the ability to operate as any other DSP, which is a distilled spirits plant, which allows us. That's obviously where you're paying the excise taxes through the DSP partnership.
So the TTB kind of looks at you almost like a distillery in a sense.
They do at the federal level, and then at the state level, this is very interesting on the regulatory side. So at the state level, the TTB operates at the federal level, as you both know very well. At the state level, I think it was the 21st Amendment, the constitutional law that says that each state regulates the sale and distribution of their alcoholic beverages. So we have to go by each state's laws. In South Carolina, under the bakery license, it allows companies like us the ability to they actually throw us into the beer and wine category, just like they're doing in North Carolina as well, where any kind of placement in the retail market, it's not going to be in the ABC stores, but it's going to be in the beer and wine stores. Whether that's a grocery channel or the wine shops that you guys are referencing.
Yeah. I wonder, Max, if the ABC boards are being like, shucks, I wanted that proof ice cream in our stores, like to drive business.
I know. I mean, I guess they could get it. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand even more simply. I get, in a way, if you were just a distillery and you bought like base spirit from, say, High West, or like one of those big companies like in Iowa or Utah or whatever that's making a bunch of grain alcohol, and you bought it and then you put it in your own barrels and you put some whatever ingredients in there to make it your own whiskey or so, it would be the same scenario. It's just instead you're putting milk and ice and sugar and all these other things and turning it into an ice cream.
That's right. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it is you're manufacturing a food product with a distilled spirit that has, at least compared to a true distillery, it has a lower ABV with the finished product.
Yeah, to put a bow on that, yeah. I think the familiar comparison for us would be, or parallel would be, like rum cakes. Or fruit cakes with rum and stuff like so. Yeah, you're right. I think the initial thing is you can legally use anybody's liquor, put it in your product, and then sell your product as your product. I guess as long as you're not naming them, which then is leading to the second part of this conversation. You talked about it a little bit, but the branding and co-branding possibilities seem to be endless, especially now that you're using craft distillers and the possibilities for that. So, will we see some co-branding in the near future?
You know what? It is absolutely not out of the option. I know that we do get calls from, actually we get a lot of calls from not just breweries, but also distilled spirits plants, craft distilleries that are beginning to inquire on that opportunity and how it exists. So we are definitely not ruling that out for the future.
Gotcha.
For our listeners, just so they're trying to think like, well, what is all this about? Because, we just had Jared Plummer over at Two Roosters. He was named, Two Roosters was named top 10 ice creamery in the nation by USA Today. So that's pretty cool out here in little old Raleigh. And so he's making some crazy flavors. But thinking of those flavors, you have, so people can understand what you're doing, as you probably are imagining, they're doing things like bourbon caramel and strawberry moonshine, blackberry moonshine, coconut rum, cheesecake moonshine, vanilla bourbon, like all of it sounds so amazing. And we were fortunate enough to taste all of this before we got on the show, because you have your team, you have your team all out here, and one of your sales reps was nearby and dropped off some samples, and it's delicious. And when you're eating it, you do realize like you're cognizant of the alcohol in there, though. I mean, you can taste it
in a good way,
right? Like you're like, oh yeah, this is what it's supposed to be. It's not your father's root beer that was kind of popular for a while. It was like that liquor. And you didn't know there was any booze in it. You'd end up drinking like 2 or 3 and you're hammered. But this at least has like an approach where you start eating it and you're like, oh yeah, I can taste the alcohol in here. But that's part of the yummy factor. With the ice cream, just in general, how complicated? I know you said it's an old family recipe. It's custard based. Kind of walk us through that a little bit. How are you making the ice cream?
Yeah, so we and some of this we're still, forgive me for being a bit coy or secretive. So some of this involves some of the intellectual property.
Tell us all your secrets right now.
Yeah, I know. But sorry, now you're making me laugh. But yeah, so we actually have a dedicated batch process at our manufacturing facility here in South Carolina. So I apologize, I can't really walk through what that process is. But we do have the dedicated manufacturing facility. As we go through the IP process, that I think what you're going to see from us as well on our growth is the ability to have, tours very similar to what the bourbon industry does, right? So you can go visit a distillery, take a tour of the facility, and we'll probably grow out that piece of our business as well once we get through this intellectual property process on our patents and our strategic portfolio.
You need to have some science in there because anyone that's tried to freeze alcohol is going to have a little bit of trouble. It doesn't really freeze too well, but you can take something with a lower ABV that would then probably be easier to freeze. But I assume, there's some technical mumbo jumbo that we don't have to get totally involved in, but it's not as simple as just pouring bourbon over some milk, eggs, and sugar. I imagine it takes a little bit more than that.
No, that's exactly right, and you're absolutely right. So you can take you can make this. You can't necessarily make our product at home, but you could certainly take a low ABV product, cream based product like a Bailey's or I'm trying to think of what else is out there. Just a cream based product like Bailey's and add some milk, cream, and sugar to that. And put it in your little home ice cream freezer and certainly come up with a low ABV product.
So that's, I guess, a couple of questions there, because I think you guys obviously have your recipe and it's an intellectual property, but being our access to information in these days, somebody's going to be able, or somebody already has figured out how to do this probably as a competitor, and you already mentioned some competitors in the set. What I'm wondering is how, though, have you automatically, or you've been around for a year, been so successful? I mean, at least from my impression, you've been, as I said, in every shop where you could possibly be in already. So talk to us about how you came into market and seemingly very successfully.
Well, I do have to say, I give all credit. I mean, every bit of credit goes to our team. So the rep in your area currently is a gentleman named Gerald. And he has absolutely just worked his tail off to blanket the Triangle area. In fact, we're looking at adding more reps to that area as well because we're growing so quickly. And
you hear that?
really,
anybody who's looking for a job, a rep job, a free plug, not brought to you by Indeed.com, but if you're looking for a rep job, hit up Jen for a proof rep job.
Yeah. Do you have what it takes to sling the frozen
Boozy ice cream? Yeah.
Yeah, no, like I'm not even kidding. Yeah, no, actually, I'll send you guys some information if you have anybody in your space that would be interested in that, because we are growing very, very rapidly across the Carolinas. So yeah, it's from the perspective, it's really interesting. So, and this is, interrupt me if I'm talking too much, but when we go and do a tasting for a retail client, or we do a tasting for also their consumers, the response that you see at the tasting is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, people are smiling, they're happy, they're intrigued. The first thing they say is when they see the product, they're like, "Oh, you can't freeze alcohol." And then we say, "Well, give this a taste." And then they taste and said, "Oh my God, where can I buy this?" And it's the response has been overwhelmingly positive. A lot of hard work on our end, certainly from a guerrilla marketing perspective, of just getting the product in front of the retailers and the consumers. But we are seeing a conversion rate of about 90%, where the retailer's bringing on the product after they sample it for the first time.
Well, that's
and
amazing.
Then we'll follow it up with demos and tastings.
Yeah, and not to be all like, this isn't a commercial or anything, but it's fascinating because, I don't know, we're just interested in this product. But even on the price side, you do a pretty good job, because if you figured it was going to be a craft ice cream and then put some booze in there as well, you're probably thinking it's going to be pretty expensive. But it looks like a pint is sub $13, which is not too bad. That's a pretty good price point for everything you're getting and all the flavors, and share it with your friends. That's a pretty decent price point as well. So you've done well. It never ceases to amaze that good athletes or people that come from a strong competition background such as yourself can make it really well in the sales industry as well. So did you take a lot of that basketball strive to be number one?
I got to be honest. I think if I did not have my basketball background, I would not be able to do this. It really, running a startup CPG, at least my experience, would be the equivalent of an extended period of time, like 2-a-days in football, where they start preseason. It's like, but for 2 years, because you just have to stay focused. You have to double down on your efforts. But at the same time, it's also, other than my children who are my world, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. The ability to interact with customers, to share a product and the experience that they love. I mean, look, I could be out selling insurance, or I could be out working, in the corporate world behind a desk, and I'm incredibly grateful for what I do, and I'm very, very passionate about it.
And what were you doing before Proof?
Well, I was raising my children who are teenagers now, and then I had a small, this is not a good buzzword, I had a small political consulting firm that I ran in the state of Kentucky.
Okay. Wow. That's a controversial topic right there, but let's stay on the topic of booze and ice cream.
Yeah, I think we need to get all the politicians and booze ice cream, and then everybody will be a little happier.
Solve the world with boozy ice cream. When did the light bulb go off? I mean, you said, so you had the ice cream recipe from an old family recipe, I think, but this is fascinating for us, and Max and I on this show. One of our biggest things is always talking about entrepreneurs and trying to find that aha moment. And you've done like the exact thing that they talk about with people looking to start their own business: is find the niche in the market that doesn't exist and then close it, right? And you provide that product. So how did that come off? Like, were you sitting around and having a big meal and being like, I want one more drink, but I also want some sweets. What should I do? And then it was like, oh, I should just put the booze in the ice cream.
Well, I am from Kentucky, so there could have been bourbon involved.
Sure.
But with that being said, no, what I did is, I'm a big believer in this as well, as, surrounding yourself with people. Certainly me surrounding myself with people a heck of a lot smarter than me. I reached out to some contacts, one on an attorney on the intellectual property side before I did anything, and then also a food scientist that I knew through a connection at a big dairy here in the U.S. And, I told them, I said, this is what we're looking at doing. We've got this very rough, beta product, if you will, this very rough early stage. Can you spend a little time with me on how we would beef up the science side of this? And here are the metrics or the KPIs I'm looking for on the finished product. And suffice to say, I had the opportunity to build on those relationships, and those folks have really helped myself and my team come up with the product that you guys have recently tasted. That's a finished product that has turned out exactly to our specifications in the taste profile.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I need resources like that. Max especially, he has like a new idea a minute, so can you give him the number of your intellectual property guy and the other person who can make it happen from a scientific background? We'll come up with some great new products.
Yeah. Well, what's amazing though, really, when, we all know, small business is, 80% of small business, it's the backbone of America. And that's the other thing that's really rewarding in this space, is that people do want to help you.
Right.
And they want to be part of your story, and they want to, they expect the ROI on that of, authenticity and the ability to help and grow with you. And we've just been incredibly fortunate with the folks that are our retail partners, and then obviously our folks on the ground. So we try to do a very good job of taking care of not just our employees, but also making sure we're listening to the customer, we're listening to their consumer demographic, and tailoring our taste profiles on our product to meet those needs.
Just from a production standpoint, how many pints of ice cream in total are you producing right now, and how many states are you in?
Okay, right now we're in South Carolina and North Carolina. We are going to be in Florida in the next 45 days, looking at partnerships with Total Wine and More. And then we actually have a strategic partner that was an early seed investor that is going to launch California. So we
Two
can
good
churn
states
out
to sell ice cream in
per day, thousands of pints. So right now we're churning out, up to 2,000 pints, up to 2,000 units a day.
2,000 units. Okay.
That's fascinating, and more power to you. This is really cool. It's great. It's a good product, and it's unique in the industry as well. So go out and get some proof ice cream.
That sounds great. Jen, thank you so much for spending some time with us and letting us a couple of secrets behind the proof ice cream. So for all of you that are listening out there, go out and get proof ice cream. You will literally eat and drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.